If you get 1,000 Simmers in a room and ask each one of them to name a player-made challenge for the game, I bet that at least 900 of them would pick the classic Legacy Challenge or some variation of it because it is so iconic by this point in the series' history. But what actually is it? How do you get started with a Legacy Challenge in The Sims, and how do you complete it? In its simplest form, this challenge has you create one Sim and play until you hit 10 generations with the family that you build around them. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to get started specifically with the Sims 4 Legacy Challenge. I'll help you pick out the base challenge rules that fit your playstyle, help you design a founder that you are simply addicted to playing with, and equip you with some tools so that you can stay motivated to see the challenge through to the end. I've tried to make it so this video is a good primer for new Simmers and veterans alike who are either new to the challenge or have tried it in the past but got bored before things really started to get going. But before we get going with this video, my name is Yasmin, and my mission here on my channel is to help serious Simmers like you to find meaningful and fulfilling gameplay in your favorite life sim games. My question of the day is, can you tell us a little bit about the founder that you might go and create for a Legacy Challenge after watching this video? Or if not that, then who your favorite Legacy Challenge sim is that you've played with in the past? Let us know in the comments down below. And since we are talking about starting and sticking with Legacy Challenges in The Sims 4 today, I have to give a massive thank you to the Sims Tree for sponsoring today's video. Because honestly, this is one of my favorite tools for helping me keep my Legacy Challenges alive and thriving in the game. The Sims Tree is perfect for organizing your households in The Sims 4 and even the older Sims games too. You can create stunning family trees, even including pets. You can add custom portraits, write out little diary entries for your Sims, and keep track of all of the little details that make your challenge feel rich and really personal. And because it's mobile friendly as well, you can update your trees anywhere inspiration strikes you. You can use the Sims Tree for free, but by using the code Yasmin or the link in the description below, you can get $4 off an annual pro subscription. This pro plan unlocks the ability for you to be able to create an unlimited number of family trees, which is a must-have for Forever World players like myself. Advanced customization options including backgrounds, different colors and line styles, and also a built-in photo editor for creating perfect sim portraits. I've been using the Sims Tree to track my Very Veggie Legacy Challenge in The Sims 4 at the moment, and it has been so fun to see my family tree change and evolve as I've been progressing in my gameplay. I know that I've told you guys this before, but updating this really is the perfect, cozy accompanying ritual to my gameplay in The Sims 4. So if you want a tool that makes it easier to track your legacy from founder to final generation, check out the Sims Tree and use my code Yasmin or the link in the description to get $4 off an annual pro subscription. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's ad, and thank you again to the Sims Tree for sponsoring today's video. Okay, right, let's start at the very beginning then. What actually is a Legacy Challenge in The Sims 4? Now, before all of you veteran long-term players of the game skip past this bit, hold your horses, I see you down there. Because while I think that most of us at this point all generally know what this challenge is, again, start with one Sim, play for 10 generations, boom, done. Every time that I go back and actually revisit the original challenge rules, I forget that there's actually quite a lot to it. To the point where I'm not even going to be able to cover everything in this video, lest it be 10 hours long. So the original challenge was created by a player called Pinstar back in The Sims 2 days, and it was later of course adapted for The Sims 4 and obviously Sims 3 when those games came out. It's the ultimate long haul gameplay format for The Sims, with the most basic traditional rules having you start off with one Sim who is a young adult and the only Sim in a household. You get to choose the way that they look, any hobbies and traits that they have, how they make money. It's all completely up to you. You have to place them on an empty lot. I believe when The Sims 4 came out, the biggest lot that we could use was 50 by 50, but now, depending on what packs you have, there are plenty of 64 by 64 size lots in the game. You then drop the household funds down to about 1,800 simoleons, which is enough to kind of get you the very basic stuff. Maybe not walls, but very basic furniture and stuff to survive. And then you play in in this family for 10 generations. A notable popular way to start the Sims 4 Legacy Challenge as well is to actually go the rags to riches route. So instead of starting with the more traditional 1800 simoleons, you start with absolutely nothing. No cash at all, a completely empty lot. You are, on your own, and that's how you have to make your living. As for the kind of main traditional gameplay rules though, once you get out of build buy mode, once you get out of CAS, is that you don't play with any cheats or mods that give you any particular leg up over other players, that you don't restart your game if any, quote unquote bad events happen as you're playing, maybe your founder dies or something like this, or maybe not your founder, because then if you don't have any kids, you might actually fail the challenge, but like just random Sims dying that you care about, you can't reset if that happens. You should live on the same lot for the duration of the challenge. You can't bring back Sims from the dead if they die, and you can only use items which extend a Sim's life once in their lifetime. Now, I will say that these are kind of they're part of the traditional rule set, but I feel like they're rules that nowadays a lot of players don't really play by because I think that they can be quite restrictive. Now that we have so many different worlds in The Sims 4, it's not really realistic, I think, to expect you to play on the same lot for 10 generations, because that is a hell of a lot of time. So just kind of take these rules here with a pinch of salt, I suppose. There's also now the life and death pack, which means that death isn't really the end of a Sim's existence in your legacy challenge. So that kind of complicates things in terms of the original rules as well. Again, the full list of these rules will be listed in the description down below for you to browse at your leisure, because there are so many of them here that I can't talk about them all. But I think that the original Legacy Challenge, at its very core, the very essence of it, is starting off with one Sim, starting off with very minimal means, if any, and playing for 10 generations. So this is what I am considering the kind of base original Sims 4 Legacy Challenge rules. There is also a point system that Pinstar has put together as well, and again, that's going to be linked in the description if you want to check it out. I don't really hear many Simmers talking about this nowadays. I feel like this was definitely a kind of very traditionalist way to approach the challenge back in the day. But again, it's down there if you're interested in reading about it. And if you're wondering, this all sounds very vague, you would be right. The original Legacy Challenge is extremely open-ended, and I can see why that would be quite overwhelming and even a little bit daunting to some players. So now I want to move on to step one officially of this guide, right? And that is to decide on your Legacy Challenge variation, because there are, of course, many new challenges that are variations of the original Legacy Challenge that other players have since come up with. So let's start breaking these down. A few of them that I really love are, first, the Very Veggie and Not So Berry challenges by Lilsimsie. The original one was the Not So Berry challenge, which Lilsimsie created, I believe, and it was around about 2017, along with Always Simming. And both of these challenges, each generation has a corresponding fruit or vegetable and kind of color scheme, and a bunch of different kind of preset story beats and also tasks and goals to complete. So it's a great mix between guiding your gameplay as well as, to some extent, it gives quite a lot of wiggle room, which I like, but the story that you're telling with your Sims as well. The Not So Berry challenge is really good because it was obviously created quite a few years ago at this point. So it means that if you don't have all that many packs in your game, it's fine, because there aren't that many that could be included in the challenge. I'd have to double check. In fact, I'm going to put on the screen right now precisely how many packs the Not So Berry challenge includes. And for the Very Veggie challenge as well, Lilsimsie has created kind of the main version of the challenge, which includes, or she pulls from quite a lot of packs with it, but there's also a totally base game version and lots of notes throughout which suggest sort of alternative paths if you don't have a specific pack. And this is something that I'm gonna note right here. Don't take any rules prescriptively, I would say. I always say use the kind of base legacy challenge and even these made other ones by players as well as a basis to jump jump off of. Never let it be what restricts you having fun with your game. But anyway, moving on, we then have the Whimsy Stories Legacy Challenge by a player called Katie, who I believe used to stream on Twitch back in the day. I've personally not tried this one, but I liked the look of it and I wanted to talk about it today because I think that it goes way harder on directing your story and it kind of adds a little bit more spice in it than you might have with the Very Veggie Challenge. So if you are very much so a narrative focused player, this will probably be the way to go for you. And lastly, I want to talk briefly about the Occult Legacy Challenge, and I think I'm going to struggle a little bit with the name of the creator of this challenge. I believe it's Asphodel Moon ? But so they created this challenge and it's going to be great if you love playing with all things supernatural. Essentially, each generation has you focus on either a different specific occult type, so vampires, werewolves, etc., or kind of something paranormal, supernatural, occult adjacent, like playing with the Reaper career from the Life and Death pack. What's really exciting about this challenge as well, that it's actually being updated still by the creator even today. So I just saw that they actually added a fairies themed generation, which of course draws on the Enchanted by Nature stuff pack. No, not stuff pack, expansion pack, which came out relatively recently. So if you're wanting a challenge that you might be able to come to, or, you know, kind of come back to throughout the years as inevitably more kind of supernatural themed packs will release for The Sims 4, then this could be a good one to try as well. So step one really is all about deciding on your base challenge rules that you want to focus on, at least at the very start of your legacy challenge. As I said, with the kind of general rule set, you know, for each generation in a whole challenge, you could even pick and mix between, say, Gen 1 of the Very Veggie challenge, but then, hey, don't really like the sound of the aubergine generation, Gen 2 of that challenge. So let me actually swap to, I don't know, Gen 6 or 7 of the, you know, not so berry challenge or something crazy like that. Like, so long as you hit 10 generations, that's all that matters. And you have fun doing it, of course. Just pick generations, pick a whole challenge, pick everything based around your play style and what you think that you will have the most fun with. So step 2 now is something which I've only actually started to think about much more recently in my Legacy Challenge gameplay, and this is to decide on your starting save file setup. This is a crucial step because it makes things a lot more complicated if you actually decide that you want to switch which save file your household is in later down the line for whatever reason. And so your two choices here are to start in a completely blank new clean save file, or to actually insert your legacy challenge into an active save file that you already have. In my case, I've popped my Very Veggie legacy challenge attempt, which I'm playing here on the channel, into my Sims 4 Forever world. This is my only active save file that I have, and I have plenty of videos on the channel all about that if you want to find out more. And before anybody comments, I know that the original legacy challenge rules state that you should be playing your challenge in a totally blank save file, but from my experience much more recently, I found that doing so really kind of hampers my motivation and my attachment to a save, because it feels so bland and boring and 2014 to start off with. So by putting my Sims and my new legacy challenge into a save file that I already have running, where I have plenty of Sims that I already know, and where I've started making some adjustments to the world already, I instantly feel so much more connected to this household and much more motivated to play. Starting in a new save file does of course give you certain freedoms and flexibilities, like being able to select which season you want to start playing in, and it's of course free from any potential bugs or maybe corruptions that you have lurking around in a active save file that you already have. So there is, I think, benefits to both sides of this decision. But then again, a new save file means that you are also working with all of the default townies, all of the default builds. Everything is just very vanilla, a little bit hollow in my opinion. So again, make of that what you will. This decision will also influence the amount of potential world editing that you might want to do in a little bit, but stick a pin in that. We'll come back to it in a second. Okay, so now that you have decided on what base challenge rules you're going to be following, at least for Gen 1, and you've decided whether you are starting a brand new save file for your legacy challenge or plopping them down into one that you already have, now is potentially the most important step in this entire process process, I would say if you really, really, really want to just get so attached to your Sims that you literally cannot put this legacy challenge down. And we are going to be designing our founder. Note how I say not creating them just yet. So before you do anything, you're not going to open up your game. In fact, I would say make like a little bit of a ritual out of this. Like get a little pen and paper or whatever digital note-taking app you like to use. Maybe get like some snacks, maybe get like a little fireplace going on your TV. Oh, that sounds delicious. Just make a little bit of an event out of this, because this is the process where you are going to be starting to build that emotional connection to the character that you're creating before we even get into game. Now, this is a 3-part kind of intentional character creation process that I have talked about a couple of times on my channel before, so I really don't want to harp on it for too long, but essentially you're going to be answering a set of questions in 3 different stages, with each one building on the last, again with the intention of building just a character that you're really attached to and feel really connected with off the jump. And I would say that you have kind of 3 directions that you could go down when creating a character, and it will kind of depend on some of the decisions that you've already made. So if you were going with the original challenge rules, you have total free reign to make whatever kind of sim you like in terms of what they look like, what their traits are, what their, you know, background is, everything. Whereas these decisions might be a little bit more mapped out for you, and you might just be working out the aesthetic side of things if you're picking a bit more of a structured legacy challenge, for example. Lastly, you could kind of do, I guess, a little bit of a mix of the 2/the 3rd way, which would be to take a sim that already exists in the game or maybe comes from past the, you know, the lore of Sims games past, and bring them into the Sims 4, you know, maybe give them a little bit of a makeover so they don't look so, you know, base game and yucky potentially, and then kind of tailoring them to whatever rules you're following. Now, before I get into walking you through the questions of this intentional character creation process, I do want to note really quickly that I have a full kind of character creation sheet built into my Sims 4 Notion tracking template for save files called SavePal, which you can find in the description down below. It's as easy as clicking a button to spawn all of the questions and then just kind of working through them at your own pace. And this comes as part of a really big database which has a lot of other things. So I'll talk about it a little bit more later, but again, it's in the description if you want to check it out just now. So step 1 of this process is considering the kind of broad gameplay themes and very generally thinking about what you want to play in the game right now. Again, your mileage with this will depend on what starting rules you're going with, but I'm going to assume that you have complete free reign over the, you know, stuff that you want to do in the first generation of your legacy challenge. So consider the following questions. Have you bought any new packs or installed any mods recently that you haven't explored that much? Are there any aspects of packs that you've had for a while, or even the base game, that you're unfamiliar with and are interested in exploring? And are there any player-made challenges or in-game scenarios / events that you want to integrate into your gameplay with this sim? Now, this is of course semi-answered for you because you're going to be playing a legacy challenge, but hey, you might even take a little bit of inspiration from the Rags to Riches challenge, as we've already talked about, or even something else like the Black Widow challenge, maybe, I don't know. Step 2 is going to be having you think about your sim's aesthetics and their backstory. So you're going to be thinking about who your sim is and where your sim is at right as you take them into live mode for the first time. As you press play straight day 1 on your legacy challenge, you want to think about who they are right now rather than who you want them to be in, you know, a couple of sim years time. So again, consider the following questions. What will your sim look like, and what are the key facets of their personality? Or also, will they take any visual or personality related inspiration from characters in other media that you love? And if so, how / who from, I guess? And are there any sims from quote unquote dead saves that you've got, or, you know, dead households that you don't play with anymore that you want to revive in this household? / again, do you want to play with any sims that already exist in this save file. What is the Sims backstory, and how did they get to the point that they are at right now as you launch into live mode? Considering all of this, what are their key motivations right at this beginning point? And finally, step 3, we're going to be getting into game, but not actually into game right now. We're going to start marrying the kind of personality of the sim and the background for this sim that you've created and the gameplay aspects that you fancy playing around with at this point of starting off generation 1. So again, finally, consider the following questions. Given the character that you've created yourself or taken inspiration from or modified, what traits in aspiration would it make sense to give this sim? Again, if you're playing in a more structured challenge, this one might already be decided for you. What worlds would be best to play in to fit your sim's backstory and your chosen gameplay direction? Taking both your sim's personality and chosen gameplay direction into account, how are you going to make money with this sim? This is super important for a legacy challenge because your main goal, again, is to start with very, little means and build up essentially an empire of family sims. What skills and hobbies will your sim develop? And lastly, considering all of these aspects, what goals do you want to achieve with this sim? In my Very Veggie challenge, my founder, Jade Sycamore, who I actually had inspired by purple sprouting broccoli rather than just basic broccoli for Gen 1. I will note that I kind of rushed creating her a little bit because I was so excited to just get into gameplay with her because the challenge launched, everybody was playing with it. I was also so excited to dive in and give it a go. But I noticed a couple of kind of in-game weeks into playing that I didn't really know who Jade was or what her backstory was. So I actually went back and sort of retrospectively went through this process with her and wrote like a big kind of backstory bio sort of a thing. And I even went so far as to add in her family and kind of stuff like this. I'll talk about that more later though, because I'm getting ahead of myself. But doing this, it made it so that I felt way more connected to Jade, and you'll see if you catch any of the live streams where I'm playing with this household, you'll see me kind of use the backstory that I've written for her to kind of justify or, rationalize and make sense of the stuff that's happening in game and using that as a kind of anchor and framing point. And it means that I just feel so much more like connected to this household. One of my biggest pieces of advice that I'm going to be sharing in this video today is do not skip this step. Maybe you do it like me, where you either do it right at the start of your gameplay or maybe a week or so after you've started, but either way, just do it. Trust me, it is the one way to stay really connected to your sims and to actually feel connected to making progress with this household. But before we go any further in today's video, if you're enjoying this video so far or finding it helpful, dropping a like or even subscribing is one of the best ways that you can support the channel, as well as watching the video to the end, because it tells YouTube's algorithms that this video is worth showing to more serious simmers like you. A link to become a channel member where you can get really cool perks like 5 exclusive past live streams and even the ability to add a sim to my own forever world is linked in the description. But anyway, enough of my spiel, let's get back to the video. Okay, so now that you have designed your founder, let's speed through the next couple of steps because I know that I've been waffling on a little bit. So step 3 is to actually create them in CAS. Again, you might want to make a little bit of a ritual out of this, sticking your favorite TV show on the telly as you do it, maybe getting some delicious snacks or treating yourself to a little custom content shopping haul before you do it. But make sure that you draw on all of this character creation process that you have hopefully just been through to make a sim that is aesthetically informed by this story that you want to be telling. In step 4, you're going to be choosing your founder's home lot. You could go the very classic legacy challenge direction and go for a totally empty 64 by 64 lot somewhere, if that makes sense to your, character's starting point. Or you could start with a slightly smaller, totally empty lot, or even, a small starter home if that's what you feel makes the most sense. I quite like to take a little bit of a middle route, I suppose, where you start with a bit of a shell of a house. Maybe it's totally unfurnished or just very modest means. Jade Sycamore in my Very Veggie challenge, I literally just gave her a totally empty shipping container because that matched the aesthetic of Foundry Cove where I moved her into, where I was playing with a lot of active sims. And it was mainly because it was winter and I didn't want her to die straight away. So it was more survival affordable than, you know, giving her luxuries to start off with, I suppose. But again, tailor it to your playstyle and whatever makes you happy. And moving on to step 5 now, you're going to start considering whether or not you want to be editing the world around your founder. The extent to which you'll want or need to do this will really depend on the starting kind of save file condition that you decided on earlier. So, you know, are you starting with a totally blank save file or one that you're already playing in? So again, starting off in Foundry Cove, for me, I don't think I actually did any specific world editing just for this sim. This actually, as I alluded to earlier, came in slightly later after I'd gone back in and kind of fleshed out Jade's backstory. So I created her parents and added them in. They don't count towards the actual legacy challenge. They're sort of Gen 0, I guess you could call them. And it was mainly because I knew that Jade would have a little bit of a complicated relationship with her parents, and that this would kind of inform her parenting with her children. So I thought that that was quite a nice way to add a little bit of lore to the world and some more kind of townies that I'll see bopping around my world that don't look like trash, because we all know the Sims 4 Sims 4s sometimes. I also then added a single lot related to this household, and this was a ginormous, like 400,000 simoleon, entirely rundown mansion that I put on the island in Windenburg. And my idea was that this mansion, you know, has been running in the family for many generations. It's kind of been left to go to waste because, you know, it's a lot of upkeep, and, you know, I think that it will eventually feed back in to the Sycamores story right at the end of Gen 1 / as we kind of transition into Gen 2. So I'm quite excited to be getting to that soon. But in terms of the world editing that you might want to do, you might want to bulldoze or customize some of the, you know, base game lots that already come in a new save file, or also, you know, edit up the townies as well if you know that you want your sim to connect with a particular group of sims. I don't know, if your sim's an artist, then they might want to befriend what's like a popular artist sim in the game. Oh my god, my brain is completely blanking right now, but you know exactly what I mean. And so now the very last thing that I want to talk about today before I release you into live mode is surrounding the kind of like peripherals of your legacy challenge that are actually external to your game. So I know that if you've watched this far, you're a serious simmer like me, so just let me match your freak here. So there are 2 external platforms that I use alongside my Sims 4 Legacy Challenge. The first one is, of course, the Sims tree, who I mentioned right at the top of this video. Once again, they're today's lovely sponsor, and if you fancy checking them out, don't forget to use my code Yasmin or the link in the description to get $4 off your annual subscription. And I absolutely love to pair using the Sims tree alongside SavePal, which again is my Notion save file tracking template for the Sims 4. It can be found in the description below, and these pair so well because SavePal really gives you the kind of flexibility of being able to move things around quite a lot. You know, if you play with a whole save file where you're playing with multiple households at the same time, whereas the Sims tree really helps you to laser focus in on your one legacy household. And how I love to pair them best is in SavePal, you can create a page specifically per household, right? And if you then take screenshots of your like family tree over time as you change it in the Sims tree, you can then paste them and like physically have a documentation of how it changes, say like each generation, or like, you know, even within a generation. And SavePal is also great because it comes with a little gameplay journal. So if you take a little break from the game, so you don't play for a week or even a month or more, if you remember in each play session to make a little note of, this is what I did today and these were what my goals were for the next play session, whenever that is in the future, you have that ready so that then when you feel the itch to jump back into game, you're not like, what the hell was I doing? Who are these people? You have everything recorded and like ready to just slip straight back into your gameplay. So I have found that using these 2 tools together in my legacy challenges and in my general Sims 4 gameplay to really turn playing a legacy challenge into much more of a like holistic experience rather than just playing the game. I don't know if that makes sense. Again, you guys are serious simmers if you're still here right now, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really great for generally deepening your connection to your legacy challenge household and for helping you hit that 10th generation. And at long last, you are ready to hit play in live mode. Yay, you did it! But before we round out today's video, I do want to share a few quick little tips and tricks, which will hopefully help you maintain your motivation as you play in this save over time. These are, tips and tricks that I've talked about much more extensively in my other videos on the channel. I'll link 2 of them in particular down below, which will go into these things in much more detail. But we all want to make sure that we're seeing this ginormous, really detailed family tree in the genealogy panel. We all want to see the massive family mansion with the walls covered in pictures that we've taken throughout all of our gameplay. But getting to that point is actually kind of hard, which is why the Legacy Challenge is called a challenge. So again, let me share some of these tips that I've picked up with you just now. So first, use the save as function. Use save as. I cannot describe how important this is to your gameplay. If you don't know, this means that instead of writing over the same save file each time you hit the save button in the options menu, using save as creates a totally new save file, which then means that say you are in a play session and then your game crashes, you open it back up and you have a bug that has entirely made it unplayable for whatever reason, you just have a previous version of the save file easily accessible without losing tens or even hundreds of hours of gameplay. I try to do this, if I remember, once a play session, so it means that just not too much will be lost. Next, don't be afraid to change up the pace of your gameplay. Because I play the vast majority of my gameplay on stream with you guys or generally for my videos, it means that I'm a very, very slow player. But I, every so often, like to really kick things kind of into hyperdrive a little bit. I'll save up a little list of tasks that I want to explore, and I might even challenge myself to dig into, unlocking some of the buffs that will mean that you can, say, build skills quicker or, generally achieve things a little bit easier in the game that I might ignore in my general gameplay to make sure that I'm hitting some of the goals that I know that I want to hit. Because sometimes it can be quite demotivating if you feel like you've played for, 5 or 10 hours without making much progress towards the goals of the overall generation. So again, don't be afraid, even if it feels like it doesn't meld well with the story that you're telling. It's just a couple of hours, hit speed 3, both on your progress and even in the game in general. And, don't be afraid to do that, because coming from a slow player, I know it can be tough sometimes. And on a similar note here on goals in your Legacy Challenge, again, most kind of preset ones that other players have written have these really big overarching goals that you're reaching towards throughout an entire generation of gameplay. But I find it quite, again, a little bit demotivating to try to work towards those because they're really big and they take a long time to do. So make sure that you set yourself side quests in the game that maybe don't necessarily move the needle towards that, but that just scratch your little rat brain in the right way. For example, for me, I know that I've kind of talked a bit about this in the past before, but one of these for me was taking Jade and her wife Summer, who's now recently passed away, which was very sad and quite traumatic actually. But a while back we took them on a camping trip, which was really fun, and that was something that I really wanted to do. And honestly, I feel like now I'm getting a lot of Jade's kind of bigger overarching goals out the way. Hitting on a couple of these little side quests is something that I really want to put my foot down on as well. Next, this is something that I really need to start working on much more in my own gameplay, but that is memory keeping. Whether you do it internally, so just having your sim run around taking lots of little pictures with their silly little camera, lots of little selfies, make sure that you're doing that so that then when your sims pass away, you have memories of them. Because again, when Summer died, I realized that I barely had any photos of her around the house, which was really kind of sad. So that was my fault that I'm paying the price for, and that I still need to rectify in my own game right now. But then there's also, external memory keeping methods. So using the resources that we've talked about today, like SavePal, like the Sims tree, all of these are really great for just, again, deepening your connection with this save and turning this save file into more of an event rather than just playing the game. And lastly is to try to remember to let moments of spontaneity slip through the cracks every so often. Lastly, I'm gonna say this one more time just now, but Jade's wife Summer did die in a spontaneous fire that she had no control over. She was literally frozen, and I couldn't for the life of me get her to go extinguish herself. And so at first I was like, I had a lot of mixed emotions around this, and I hadn't planned for it to happen. And so I actually decided to take this as an opportunity to kind of diverge this gameplay and to just make something, like make some story out of it, you know, which has actually been very formative to my Gen 2 sim Amethysta. And I, in a video recently, actually referred to this as like rolling with the punches, and I had a lovely comment from somebody who said to not see these as rolling with the punches, but instead as like delicious little morsels that you can snack on during your gameplay, because they just make the experience so much sweeter, you know, and so much just more engaging overall. So yeah, I don't know, make sure that you're not being a total perfectionist simmer if you can. I've been like that for many years, and it's only more recently, now that I'm streaming and that I physically cannot be like locked into every single sim at the same time, that I'm starting to do this, and I found that it has really enriched my gameplay overall. And with that, I am bringing this ultimate guide to starting a Sims 4 Legacy Challenge video to a close. I hope you enjoyed it and found it really helpful. Once again, thank you so much to the Sims Tree for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to use my link or the code Yasmin at checkout to get $4 off your annual pro subscription. I also have to give a huge thank you to our amazing channel members for supporting my work here on the channel. So starting off with our Tiberian members, we have Amy M, Roberta C, Bloodied Porcelain, and Lady Cilantro. And for our lovely Soul Piece members, we have Catherine, Adriana J, Ebba L, Charlie, Rachel D, Vanagander, Lisa S, Leone, Mason P, Melissa H, Nina B, Moa1015, Pandora, Haley M, Paulina, Leslie and I, Alexandra L, Corinne SH, Laura, and Nancy P. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel as always. Your support literally means the world. Don't forget to let us know in the comments who your new Legacy Challenge founder is gonna be in the comments, or also maybe your favorite Legacy Challenge sim from the past, as that is my question of the day today. I love reading the super creative comments and stories that you guys come up with. If you would like to hear me yap on some more, click on the video on the screen just now, because YouTube has picked it out just for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.